The Montreal Canadiens and the Detroit Red Wings have both announced players on unconditional waivers to be bought out. We'll discuss the details coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. Now we have some more news on the buyout front. The window right now is open for teams to buy players out up until October the 8th. We have two more today with the Montreal Canadiens placing defenseman Karl Alzner on unconditional waivers for the purpose of buying out his contract. When players are placed on waivers, they're like never claimed because they're obviously going to become a UFA, and if there are teams with interest, they can sign them for a much cheaper contract afterwards. So even though these players have to go through waivers, they never end up getting claimed. And now in the case of Alzner, I'll show you the buyout calculator here from capfriendly.com on the screen. Essentially for the coming season, Montreal is only going to save about $600,000 in cap space, but then next year they save over $2 million in cap space, and then they have 2 extra years of dead space at over $800,000. So how it works, in case you're not familiar, is it takes the remaining money, they buy them out at 2/3 of that amount, and then it's stretched out over twice the remaining contract. So in this case, Alzner had 2 years left, so there's going to be cap implications for 4 years on this contract. They'll save more now, and obviously, like I said, have some dead cap space over the extra 2 years that are tagged on. But that Alzner contract was really not good from the get-go. I think Marc Bergevin, for the most part, has done a pretty good job over the last few years of being the GM with his signings and trades, but this is not one that I'm sure he's proud of. It really was obvious early on that this was not a good contract, did not work out, and he spent a lot of time playing in the minors over the last few years as well. They've brought him up on occasion, trying to showcase him to see if another team would bite, but it's never happened. They've never been able to move the contract. So they're going down this road to free up a roster spot, save a little bit of money. Obviously, they are in pretty good shape for cap space as well, so they can afford to do this. I kind of wondered if they might wait one more season, though, just to kind of get through. They could bury it, save a little bit of money that way, or cap space, I should say, and then move them next year through a buyout if possible. They'd be tied to them a little bit less period of time, but obviously they decided to go this route. Now, makes me wonder if Bergevin might be considering making a bigger move. I know the first-round pick that they have, number 16 overall, has been linked to possibly being available for the right trade because the Habs do want to go after a top 6 forward if they're able to. I know they also want to get an extension in place for Brendan Gallagher. They got to sign Max Domi. They probably would like to extend Philip Deneau, but I know there's some concerns over that as well. So they could certainly use the extra little bit of space, put it to good use. But more than anything, it's about moving this player along to get him off the roster and just to save a little bit of cash. So now in the case of the Red Wings, they've placed Justin Abdelkader on unconditional waivers for the purpose of buyout. So Abdelkader was a long-time Red Wing, and one of those contracts that like a few players on that team had that just really were not good. He had 3 years left, so they're going to be tied to this contract for another 6 years. So essentially, they're going to save about $2.5 million for the coming year, a little bit less than $2 million for the years 2 and 3 after. Then they're going to have an additional 3 years tagged on, just a little bit over $1 million in dead cap space. So that's not too bad. They get to save some money here for the next few years. The years 3 through 6 shouldn't be as bad because the cap hopefully will start to go up by then, give them a little bit more breathing room. And obviously, the thing too is they're giving Abdelkader an opportunity to get out of that contract so he can maybe go find a place where he can play with better opportunity to finish out his career. Obviously, teams might be interested, but they're not going to be interested in that kind of price tag. He might be able to get a league minimum contract somewhere else, but he certainly had a pretty rough season last year. Offensively speaking, it was pretty atrocious. So Abdelkader is a player who was pretty much a role player for a long time in Detroit. Had a pretty solid career overall, but things are kind of winding down for him now. And we'll see if he gets picked up on a short-term cheap contract somewhere else. But these two players, both heading for buyouts, looking for fresh starts, and we'll see if any other NHL teams are willing to give them opportunities for a much cheaper price tag. Because in a lot of these cases, they're not necessarily bad players. They're just bad contracts, which is a completely different story. Sometimes the player is just not overly good as well. Sometimes it's a combination, but we often see players get opportunities at cheaper prices once these situations clear up and they get to be an unrestricted free agent. So let me know your thoughts on these buyouts, and we'll discuss further down in the comments. Stay tuned for additional videos coming later today as we approach and get ready for the 2020 NHL Draft. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.